Hey, you guys, welcome back. Before I get on to the third rule, this is the fourth video, and the third rule, I want to just share something with you. This is not a professional. These videos are not designed to be professional. In the front of each one of these videos, you'll see that they're supplements for people who've taken our course on understanding the family. And it's not fair for me to ask you guys to be exactly who you are if I can't show you exactly who I am. And that includes the flaws and the quirks that you've seen in this particular video. So keep that in mind as you watch, when you watch this series. So the third rule is see the person for who they are, not who you're hoping them to be. And the reason why that's important is you really want to meet the person for exactly who they are. You don't want to put your deficit or your wound glasses on and project onto them that they'll be able to some way complete you in some form or some emotional balancing way. As mentioned before, a half times a half is a quarter. It's not a whole person. I want to be a whole person so I can offer a whole person to somebody else, okay? The idea about what we're talking about in these videos is really about not acting anymore. We don't want to no longer be the human doing, we want to be the human being. Is it okay to be Leon and be exactly Leon instead of the act of Leon? And like professional actors, stage actors, they can act anywhere on the planet in any professional environment. But the biggest thing an professional actor is worried about is looking like he's acting on stage. In other words, coming out of character. And that's not what we're looking to do. We're looking to be exactly ourselves and find out whether or not the empirical evidence shows that it's okay to be us around us. And usually what we'll find in that search and that journey is, yes, it's okay to just be you. It's the best place to be. It's a lot less stress, a lot less anxiety, and you can relax a lot more in your body than trying to pretend to be something that you're not. Okay, saying that, I want to tell you something. There's a bit of a difference, and not this difference, but like this difference, this difference between what we're discussing here, which is about dating and relationships and meeting people, compared about when your heart falls in love. Okay, those are way two different things. The first one is you meet somebody, you might be at a dance, you might be at a restaurant, you might be at a friend's place, and you see somebody across the room from you, they kind of catch your interest a bit, so you do this process to go over and meet them, or you get maybe the waiter, you ask the waiter for their bill so you can actually pay for it so that they it gets their attention. And the nice thing about that is it's in the slower process, and hopefully if it goes really well and you guys connect up really well, you can show them these video series so you're both on the same page in regards to how to keep balance in the relationship. And now that's not going to be the same as when your heart falls in love. When your heart falls in love, it's totally different. It's like 0.03 seconds, and usually what's going on there is you've heard people come up to you and say, oh, I just met this person, it's like I've known them my whole life, there's something familiar about them. Yeah, family. And usually what's going on there is your emotional little wounded kid and their emotional wounded kid subconsciously have connected with each other, and that's why it's so familiar. The emotional connection with the two, it's more likely that you both come out of the same dysfunctional environment, and that's one reason why it seems to fit just right. Now, don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with falling in love. It's great to fall in love, and it may be totally love at first sight, but the idea is slow it down, even if your heart's running fast. The problem with the heart and the head, they have this schism. There's two ways of knowing truth. Analytically, that's in your head, and intuitively in your heart. And this schism or this divide between the two, sometimes they just clash. You can't convince the other one that, no, this is true. I really love them. Okay, just slow it down. Just slow it down. Remember, love is blind. And how it becomes blind is if you don't see the person for who they are and you see them for who you're hoping them to be, well, you don't see them. So you put your wound glasses on and you become blind because you will not see them, and you will project onto them, and you'll throw out certain things that you shouldn't be throwing out, and you should actually keep that information close to you so you can see whether or not this person is in your best interest to have a deeper, longer relationship with. Now, if any of you have taken our series before, or our courses before, you know we psychologically set you up subconsciously. And the reason why we do that, especially me as the teacher, is I want to see whether or not you're living the adapted self, or if you're living more solid, your solid self. In other words, you're not doing the active you or the doing of you as a human being. You're actually being exactly who you are. And so I set you up in the video just prior to this, and what I did was I left a spelling mistake. And it's in that list of, if you have thoughts in your head with emotions attached that you feel internally of accusation, negative declaration, judgment, and guilt, and condemnation is another one in there. And I took the word A out, and I put the letter A out, and and replaced it with the letter O. Now, why am I telling you that? Well, I'll share a story first before I let you know why. Have you ever saved up for something, or you've wanted to get something that you really, really loved? A new car, a dining set, living room set, motorcycle, and you finally got it, and you're quite ecstatic and stoked about the whole thing. So you go and you get it, and then your friends show up, and they come up, and they notice that you got a new car. But when they walk up to the new car, the first thing they do is, oh, you got a scratch right there. Look at that. There's a scratch right there. Now, that's called the EverQuest for dung. And the reason why that's an important little insight is if you carry the EverQuest for dung, in other words, what you can't see is the beauty of something in its entirety, even with its flaws. You immediately go target right into the negativeness of things. If you carry that style of regulator, critical regulator, perfectionist regulator, you're going to be more likely pretty critical with your own process. Because as long as things are perfect, as long as things are put away just the right way, the way I want them to be put away, if things are cleaned the right way, if your actions are done the right way, if you talk a certain way, the right way from my perspective, then I'm okay. And I feel a little more balanced in myself. It's a counterfeit way of feeling balanced in yourself because it's usually out of your deficit. And it'll be pretty critical for you because if I do things perfectly and life should be perfect, if I don't do things perfectly, then I'm not perfect. And my deficit's certainly going to fill my head full of thoughts of negative judgment, accusation, negative declaration, and guilt with condemnation. So the other thing about that too is if you flipped it around and you're meeting somebody like that, imagine that if they come in and they see my car with this little tiny scratch, what do you think they're seeing in you? Are they seeing you for the one only person you are, or are they seeing you for what they're hoping you to be? In other words, down the road I'm going to fix that problem with you, that little glitch you've got, in your best interest. They won't let you know that's what they're doing, but they'll frame it that way in their brain. Well, I'm just saying that to you because I want you to be a better person. Now, that might be true, but again, on a flip side of that, if you carry your own emotional deficit about yourself, when someone loving and really cares about you and does have your best interest comes and suggests something to you, you will take it as a criticism. And you want to be cautious of that because people who have your best interest, it's not they're saying there's anything wrong with you, and it's not saying that they're trying to upgrade you in any way. They want you to have your own personal power about what you're creating, which is your life, and they're usually pointing out things that will be beneficial for you, and you'll know it unless you're carrying a deficit. Then you will put it through your critical regulator and think that they're judging you. So just be mindful of that. So the setup in that whole idea is just be cautious of the person and we all have it. I've had it in my life and I'm aware of it. If a person's aware of it, this is the bonus. It's about being aware, personal aware. If you're aware of it, then you can do something about it. And you can apologize to the person. A sorry goes a long way with somebody. Sorry, honey. Sorry, so-and-so. You're right. I don't know why I do that, but I'm learning about it. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk to you about is when you meet somebody in relationships, any style of relationship, what's going to come up is your deficit, especially when you're first starting this process of self-awareness and self-discovery about yourself. That's normal, and how it's going to come in you is usually going to be through awkward emotions, insecurity, fear, anxiety. Now, the thing about awkward emotions is awkward emotions are usually stunted emotions, and they haven't had a chance to grow up emotionally. And we have 5 stages of emotional development that we are born with when we come into this world. And the nice thing about those 5 stages of emotional development is you don't have to think about them. They'll carry you through to the next level if you give your body permission to do it. They're usually stunted though via trauma or other experiences that have happened to us in regards to abuse. We don't need the abuser, or we don't need the abuser anymore in our life because we usually carry them in our head, along with 25,000 other scriptings, and that usually drives us through life. So I got some good news for you, and that is that no one has ever died from awkward emotions. Okay, you never once in the news heard 25 people or 85 people were wiped out this weekend in Kelowna, or the city that I happen to be from, by awkward emotions. Never going to hear it, never going to happen. Now, Yes, some people have done self-harm to themselves because they've had awkward emotions in their body, but it's usually because they've misinterpreted what the emotions are trying to say to them. Because most of our emotions have been hijacked by these parental scriptings that we have in our head. So I'm really isolated and feeling sad today. That means nobody loves me. That's not necessarily true. Maybe there's a context for me being sad today, and maybe it's okay just to be sad. Awkward emotions are kind of like those Halloween blow-up monsters. You plug them in the wall and they get really, really big, and they're like scary, especially when you're a little kid. Oh my goodness, what is that? Oh! And the thing about awkward emotions is they're not scary, really. I mean, I know they feel scary sometimes, you guys, don't get me wrong. But awkward emotions, like those big blow-up things, if you can find out what they're plugged into and unplug them so that they'll just deflate. And what they'll do after they're done deflating is they'll start growing again. And then your body will be able to repair itself and give you those tools. Because awkward emotions really are tools. And they're tools for the big leagues, which is adulthood. And me as a man, I need to have them. I've had to learn to let them grow up in a brutal way. But the nice thing is I have them now available to me. And it usually came in crisis. I look at my life as a best-selling novel. And like all best-selling novels on the New York Times, when you start the first page, where you end up in the last page is far from where you started. It's got the good, the bad, and the ugly, or I call it brutally stellar. And there's a whole bunch of stuff in between that. And if I can't befriend my whole life experience, including my emotional existence of how I got to where I am today, it'd be pretty hard to have a soil of flexibility, spontaneity, creativity in my life, to be gentle on myself, to look at my life as learning instead of good, bad, right, or wrong. Life is totally about learning. There's no morality or ethics to it. You'll get your morals and your ethics from your own stupidity, trust me, because you probably have it already, some of it already figured out, especially if you've already gone through our courses. So just to remember that there's lots of growth that you got to do in your body, because your body has gotten older doesn't mean that your body's navigated a lot of the emotional questions it's had in its life. So it's important to look at your life as a best-selling novel, and that you have a right to be curious about the mystery of your life, and start investigating why you're feeling what you're feeling. So I kind of want to leave you with a little thought, okay? So sometimes the place that you're used to is not the place that you belong. And remember, you have a whole life. And when you start moving towards spontaneity, creativity, and vitality, you'll really realize as soon as you get onto that side, man, I wasn't where I was supposed to be at all. The crises in my life developed me to be the best me I can be today. And that's all I can be. It's not perfection. I don't carry a perfectionist regulator. I don't look for the little scratch in my life. I got it. Yeah, I've been a moron. But that's okay. Most of us have. Matter of fact, all of us have. So on that note, I'll let you guys go, and I'll see you on the fourth rule, which is relax. You guys, please relax. Be who you are, not who you think the other person's wants you to be. Okay? We'll talk to you in a bit.